All right. Thank you. Welcome that you're all here. And I know it takes some time out of your life, but my job is to make sure that the time that you spend here is fruitful, full of good information, truthful information, always factual. And I also encourage you to take notes, write down stuff that might be new or things that you don't believe or controversial or different from what you may have learned. Write it down, do some research, and then if you have some questions, please do not hesitate to send us an email at support@3believe.com. Fortunately, all of the things that we're talking about are things that are verifiable through clinical research. I do want to caution you that back in the day when newspapers ruled and TV was the king, it went something like this. If it was in print or if you heard it on TV, it's got to be true. Absolutely, undeniably fact. Well, we all learned that that's not always the case. And also, that is the case with the internet, even more so because even more data is out there without any vetting or qualification. So that's why with 3Believe, the research that our program is based on is clinically studied. All the data that I took our program from, or built upon, I should say, was based on peer-reviewed, clinically studied, double-blind sided reports. Now, what does that mean exactly? So peer-reviewed means that other scientists have checked out that study and they have agreed with and vetted it out. They confirmed that it's true. They ran their own study and it was confirmed. Double blindsided means that there's a placebo base. So you'll have an active ingredient, let's say that it's vitamin C, for example. And then you run a group of people with a certain physiology or a certain condition, and then you run another group of people with as close to exactly the same situation and condition, and you give them a placebo. Basically, it'd be something like a sugar pill. It would have no effect on them, and that's the double blindsided. So those doing the study and those taking the substance, in this case vitamin C, and the sugar pill, wouldn't know which one was the real deal. And that's a great way to qualify that the data that you're getting back at the end of the study is more accurate. And that's the studies that we based our program on. And so that's critical. That's important because you can find a study that talks about almost anything. One little tiny study with 10 people, and it was maybe in a petri dish. It wasn't even a living host, or it was done just with rats and not with the human body. Not to say that all studies with animals are bad. It's just that you want to have a human subject in there. Since last time I looked in the mirror, that was what I am. I want something that works on the human condition. So for those of you that are here for the first time, my name is Jason Whitney. I'm a food scientist that specializes in the treatment and formulation for metabolic syndrome. Metabolic syndrome is identified by these terrible things that we have around us. And it affects 8 out of 10 people that we know, love, and see walking on the streets. And those things are being overweight, having high blood pressure, elevated glucose levels, elevated cholesterol levels, and a fatty liver. Any one of those conditions would qualify us as being a candidate for metabolic syndrome. And clinically speaking, any two of them in any combination would medically define us as having metabolic syndrome. Now, why is that a big deal? The big deal is because whatever you did to get you that first one, if you don't stop doing it, you're going to get the second one. And if you don't stop doing that, the same thing, you're going to get the third one. What's important to note with metabolic syndrome is you don't have to do something different. Let's say that because of my eating habits, I got a fatty liver, which by the way is usually the very first one that happens. Was the fatty liver is the primary basis of getting metabolic syndrome. We get a fatty liver, and I got that because of the ratios of foods that I was eating and the macronutrients. Not really the amount of food, though it can have an impact, but that wasn't the primary cause. It was the ratio of macronutrients in that food I was eating. Now I'm going to talk more about what that means. That ratio means here a little bit later tonight. But having that out of whack, out of balance, would give me a fatty liver. Well, I don't have to eat twice as much. I don't have to have my ratio be 20% worse in order for me to get the second one, or for me to get the third symptom of metabolic syndrome, like high blood pressure or cholesterol, or type 2 diabetes. All I have to do is continue to do what I did to get the first one, and I'm going to get the second one and the third one and the fourth one. It's really not a factor of more of a bad thing. It is really an element of time. It's kind of like being in the swimming pool. So if you and I went down to the pool and we hopped in, and I decided to stay in there all afternoon, I come back out and you look at me and my skin's all pruned up. My fingers are all pruned. You know how that look, right? Well, it wasn't that as soon as you got in and then got back out, you got pruned up. Well, how come I did? It was not because of the water. It was because of the time that I was in the pool exposed to the water. Makes it an entirely different situation. And that's what metabolic syndrome is. It's the time that we're having that disproportionate or that unhealthy ratio of macronutrients that will expose us to these other symptoms. And so what are they? What causes the symptoms of metabolic syndrome? Well, there's a chain reaction event. One is that it's a preponderance of having your cells bombarded for an extended period of time at an elevated level of insulin. Insulin's important. It's one of the master hormones. The other master hormone, which is the opposite of insulin, does the exact opposite of what insulin does. It's called glucagon. And they work hand in hand, back and forth, is the perfect scenario. But if we just get stuck on insulin, then certain things start to happen. And what causes high insulin in our diet? Well, carbohydrates. And so if we eat a disproportion of carbohydrates, which is a macronutrient in our diet, there's only 3 macronutrients. What are they? They're carbohydrates, they are proteins, and they are fats. If we eat a disproportionate amount of carbohydrates in our diet, so when you hear me talk about macro balancing, that's what I'm talking about. Too much of a macronutrient of carbohydrates, it's going to increase the amount of insulin that our cells are exposed to. And just like our skin in the swimming pool, it's going to get all pruned up. Your cells are going to get insulin resistant. They're not going to respond as well to it. And your pancreas is also going to have something called hyperinsulinemia. And all that means is that, well, your pancreas is going to get a little bit out of whack. It's not going to have the right ratio of insulin to glucose. Meaning a perfect scenario is that your cells, in an ideal world, your insulin wants to see 10 glucose cells for every 1 insulin cell. All right? And that's how powerful insulin is. But if you have hyperinsulinemia, well, you're going to have a 2-to-1 or 2-to-10 ratio, or 2.5, or 5-to-10, or 10-to-10. Or they can get really bad. They can go even higher than that. And then eventually our pancreas will start to shut down. The beta cells that make that insulin will start to be less efficient, and your pancreas just gets tuckered out, gets wore out, and it starts giving up. And then what happens in our body is that our cells are insulin resistant. They don't like as much insulin, so they're not absorbing as much, which means they're not absorbing as much glucose when you're eating all those carbs. And then in your bloodstream, you've got elevated glucose levels and you got elevated insulin levels at the same time. And that's what we call type 2 diabetes. And that's not a good thing, because other things start to happen after that. We start gaining weight. We start having high blood pressure. We start having elevated cholesterol levels, and so on. And so that is the two major culprits. The third one is that our digestive system is not operating properly. We're not actually absorbing the nutrients that we're eating. And that's metabolic syndrome. We've been at this for almost 10 years. We've been selling to doctors and clinics all across the country, even in other countries, our methodology. They like what we offer because of a couple of reasons. One, they like it because we are scientifically based. We're a medically based program. We can back up everything that we say, all of our ingredients that are in our formula, which, by the way, nobody else has. It's not because they can, it's not because we have a license that we're the only ones to do it. It's just that we put the most expensive stuff in there, and nobody else wants to take the roll of the dice and say, let's put the best stuff in there. They're a little bit, well, set on having a certain amount of return. We're more concerned about retention and the health of the subject, being you, and long-term results than we are in short-term profits. And nobody has as many ingredients in their product as we do. We have over 150. Our formula is by far the most complex formula in existence. Nobody else has the same. And that's some tooting. That's a horn that's worthy to be blown. And so forgive me for blowing it just a little bit. So we've been doing that for 10 years. Doctors like that. They also like it because we're whole-based, meaning we're whole food, all natural, nothing artificial, nothing preservatives. That's kind of nice, especially for those that are seeking that whole food benefit. And the third reason is because, well, they make good money doing it. You can't find it on the shelf in the supermarket or in a health food store. So they like the opportunity that they have to do their patients well without giving them prescriptions that don't work anyway, at least not for a long-term solution. It's just a temporary fix. It doesn't deal with the cause of it. And they like it because of the customers see benefits and results. So that's why we've been doing what we've doing. So why are we doing 3Believe? We do that under a different name, the other company. Why do we do 3Believe? Because doctors only reach so many people. You, on the other hand, can reach everybody. Less than 24% of the U.S. population sees their doctor once a year. Well, that's not enough. And so let's do some quick math. Less than 24% of Americans see their doctor once a year. If I'm selling our program to a doctor, that means that less than a quarter of the people are seeing our program in a 12-month period of time. Now, that might not be so bad, except for the fact that we don't have all the doctors in the country. We have a bunch, but we don't have anywhere near. There's over 1 million doctors in the country. We don't have all them. That means that there's just too many people going with what we have and what they need. So you have contact to everybody. Well, you don't have to talk to them once a year. You talk to them every day or every week, every month. And so we made a program called 3Believe. Gave you the opportunity to tell everybody you know, and even people you don't know, and spread the word. And at the same time, have the opportunity to make some money. We sell it to you at wholesale instead of selling it to the doctors, and you can have a home-based business and do the same thing that doctors do, because it's the same formula. So that's who we are. That's why we're doing what we're doing. And this is we're going to go into why you have an amazing product here in just a second. Before that, I'm going to read a testimony. I got an update on a testimony. Her name is Audrey Haig. Testimony, 85 years young. I had 2 stents placed in my vascular system in 2012, 5 years ago. My doctor recommended and insisted that I take 10 to 12 prescription drugs every day. I objected to taking this many prescription drugs. My doctor finally agreed for me to take only 4 to 5 prescription drugs each day if and only if he could conduct a periodic physical exam. I agreed. I have been on 3Believe program for approximately 3 months. That's not very long. That's 90 days. Consuming 2 shakes each day for 2 months, and then switched and took 1 shake a day for the last 30 days. So what she did is she got on phase 1 to start out with. She did that for 2 months, and then she switched and got on phase 4 for the last 30 days. Now, that's exactly what I recommend that you do. So when you're talking to your people, or if you're listening for yourself, start out on phase 1. Don't start out with phase 4. Go and give your body the benefits, because it hasn't been having all the things that it needs. And I'll explain here in a second why you need to follow that program. So just take my word, or take my advice, and start out with phase 1 as Audrey did, and then you can move to phase 4. I digress. Let's continue. She says, I had my physical exam Tuesday, August 8th. That was just 2 days ago. He said that he had been practicing medicine for over 30 years and has never examined an 85-year-old lady with such good health. He said, I had the health of at least a 75-year-old lady. Let me repeat that. I've been practicing medicine for over 30 years and have never examined an 85-year-old woman with such good health. Congratulations, Audrey. We can pat ourselves on the back over here at 3Believe and say we did that. But an important element that we just cannot forget is that Audrey had the belief and the faith that it would work for her, or she wouldn't have taken that 3 months ago. She wouldn't even have started out with it. She did her research, and I don't know all that she did, but she did enough of it that she tried it. And she did it for 1 day, and she did it for 2, and then she did it for a couple of weeks, and then she did it for a couple of months. And it made her feel a certain way, right? I happen to know that she is feeling better than she has in years, in many, many different categories. She had severe digestive issues that she had to deal with, medications for that. She cannot live without the shakes on a daily basis, or she feels it almost immediately in her stomach. And so it's resolved that issue. So back to Audrey, we got to give a majority of the credit to her. She stuck at it. She stayed with it. She had no proof that it was going to work for her. She worked off things like other people's testimony, like what Audrey just provided. So thank you, Audrey, for taking the leap of faith, but also thank you for providing this testimony, because it will help support someone else. And so all of you out there that have not sent me a testimony, it doesn't have to be grandiose. It didn't have to grow you a new arm or raise Lazarus from the dead. It's your testimony. And I promise you, I've been in this business long enough to know that whatever you have to say and how small you think it is, there are literally thousands of people out there that are exactly in your situation, will take that to heart and be glad that they heard someone else, because they think that they're the only ones that have that condition. And when they hear you say something about it and how it gave them relief, they are encouraged. And you gave them hope. And that's a big thing in today's world. So send those in, please. He continued, the doctor. I'm sorry that I ad-lib. There's no such thing as if you ask me a question, for me to give you a short answer. I'm going through therapy with a professional that's teaching me how to give a short answer. All right, I continue. He said, I don't know what you're doing, but continue doing the same. Wow. Great testimony. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. So, some highlights that I want to talk about is you hear some keywords being buzzed around on the internet and TV and writings and people's talking in the gym. They talk about, is it keto approved? Is this food or this diet keto approved? Ketogenic approved? Ketogenic diet? Are you in ketosis? They all relate to the same thing. So keto is short for ketosis. Ketogenic is just another form of the same. And all that means is that your body is receiving a low amount of carbohydrates, if any at all, in your diet. And it forces you into a situation of ketosis. That's a physiological condition that your body automatically goes into. Your creator made it that way for these exact situations. When you're not having any or a low amount of carbohydrates, your body then switches. That's this magic thing. It switches because it's not getting enough energy, you see. And so your body needs energy, so it'll switch, kind of like switching from gasoline to diesel fuel, just like that. It's pretty cool. And it starts burning stored fats. And those stored fats, as it's breaking down that fat energy source, it puts off a ketone. A ketone, ketosis, ketogenic, that's where that term comes from. A ketone the body can use instead of glucose. It's a great energy. It's like down at the gas station, you can put gasoline in your car, you can put high octane in your car, or you can put rocket fuel in your car. Now, ketones is like rocket fuel. Your brain loves ketones. It burns better, it works better on ketones than it does on glucose. You never get brain fog when you get too many ketones, because there's no such thing as getting too many ketones. You get that when you have too much glucose. You get brain fog. In fact, science is coming out with lots of reports saying that that's exactly what's happening as a trigger. One of the main culprits to Alzheimer's disease is we have too much glucose in our bloodstream, and our brain is being flooded with too much insulin, and it has the problems that we get with Alzheimer's. So our diet is absolutely a ketogenic diet. Ours is a ultra low. Now there's different stages. You can be low, moderately low, and then extremely low. We're in the extremely low category. In fact, I don't know any other well-documented medical-based or even over-the-counter program that's as low as ours. I tell you that you have to be under, in our program in phase 1, less than 20 grams of carbs daily. And yet, if you're following it as it's written out, you're closer to 8 to 12 grams of carbs a day, so almost half that. And so we're really low. That's good. And we're just unique in that category. You just don't find anybody else doing it. Why does no one else do that? Because when you're that low, it's hard to keep someone in ketosis because their cravings are so high. You've been living a high carb diet for a long time. If you're an average American, 60 to 65% of your energy source is coming from carbohydrates. So you're a carbivore, gobbling those things down, and you're hooked, like caffeine, like smoking, like alcoholism. You're hooked. Your cells are hooked. It's driving you to go get those. And so when you go on it with other people's program, your cravings are so strong that you can only do it for a little while. Well, with ours is a special mix that we put you on a low carb, but we make you fat adaptive, so we get you that high energy really fast with omega fats. And we have our smart foods. Man, who in the world wouldn't be on a low carb diet when you can eat a roll as good as ours, or our muffins, or our chips, or our tortillas, and the list goes on and on. So it's our smart foods that really give us the shot in the arm as being able to keep you in it long term. So that is a short rundown of who we are. Well, kind of a long introduction. So let's go into what I want to talk about. You know, I work very closely with our team that's putting videos together. I'm an actor in a lot of it, but also because I'm the food scientist and read all the clinical studies. I'm very much involved in the writing of them. I'm a terrible editor, so I have someone else edit it, but I like the creative process as well. I care about you. And because I've coached so many people over the last decade, I have a good handle on what people have to go through and their emotions that they have when they're going through this program. So I was reminded of the tremendous value that we have as I was going through some of the videos that will soon be up on their website. It'll be a new page. Wait till you see the new design and the functionality of it. It's awesome. It's great. So one of them will be called, if you can't digest it, it can't nourish you. Now, I talked about earlier that I'd talk about your digestion as the third component of metabolic syndrome. First being pancreas, second being your liver, and the third being our digestion. Well, if you can't digest the nutrients that you're eating, then what good are they? It's kind of like me telling you, hey, you know what? I work down at the bank, and we got loads of money in there, and we don't know what to do with it all. So I give you permission to go ahead and go into the bank and just take what you need. And I leave, and you come down to the bank, and you open up the door, and well, you find out the door is not open. You go along the back, and you find out the back door is not open. You see, the illustration I'm trying to make is having permission, eating the food and getting it in your stomach is one thing. Even if it's healthy food, let's say it's the healthiest food possible. I mean, there's not a speck of adulterated material or substance in it. It's the healthiest food. You ate it, but your body can't digest it efficiently. That's the key. You see, if you don't have a key to the bank because it's locked, well, all the money in the vaults they just don't do you any good. All the value and the riches of the nutrients in the food, that healthy food that you just ate, doesn't do you any good if you don't have the mechanism to break that food down and feed your cells. You see, we take for granted that just because we eat it and we chew it up and we throw it down in our stomach that we're just going to get all the nutrients that are there, and that's just not the case. You see, the way that we break down food is through enzyme probiotics, and that's how our cells are able to get the nutrients at the cellular level. And without that, we simply just pass it through our system. And oftentimes, we will actually have symptoms that look like we're allergic to that food. Let me give you a perfect example. So when you were a kid, how many of your friends complained about a stomach ache when you went to your friend's birthday party and they had ice cream? Or you went to the soda bar. Remember back in the day when we had, ice cream parlors with soda bars, right? You went to the soda bar and had a milkshake, and your friends had upset stomachs. Well, it was rare that one of your friends was lactose intolerant. It just wasn't heard of. But it's all over the place now. So what's happening? Is our bodies, are the human species not able to process food like it used to? Well, yeah, kind of. It's not able to process the food the way it used to if it doesn't have the enzymes that are specific to lactose. You see, we have to have specific enzymes for certain kind of the nutrients that we eat. The reason why most people, clinically proven, the reason why there are so many people that are dairy intolerant is because of the lactose that's in there. It's not because lactose is bad. It's not because dairy is bad. It's because you can't tolerate it and you show the symptom of being allergic to it. Well, not having enough enzymes, and we call that enzyme deficient, not having enough enzymes to break down that lactose will give you a symptom that's just like being allergic to it. So most people that have the symptoms of lactose intolerance are not actually lactose intolerant at all. They're enzyme deficient. They just don't have enough enzymes to break down the lactose they just ate. We have people all the time that come back to me and say, when I started this program, I wanted to lose some weight, or I wanted to lower my blood pressure, or one of the other symptoms of metabolic syndrome. And they came back and said, you know what? It cured me. I can have ice cream again. I love ice cream. I have to correct them. We didn't cure you of anything. We simply gave you enzymes that you were missing that gave you the ability to break down that lactose that was in that ice cream again. Your body did it. It just needed the tools to break that down. It needed the key to open up the vault and expose the riches that that ice cream has. So in our website and in our program, we give you 15 complex digestive enzymes and probiotics and prebiotics so that you can digest the foods that we give you, that you're paying good money for, that you're having 3 times a day, but also enzymes for you to break down the food that you're eating when you're eating your self-prepared meals or a meal at grandma's house or a meal at the restaurant. You will digest food better than you ever have. That's an important point. In fact, most people will be able to get you, I'll be able to get you up to about 98% digestibility in, depending on how bad you are, generally about 2 months. Most Americans, a study done, proved this, is that all Americans, I shouldn't say most, all Americans on average are only digesting 47% of the foods that they're eating. Well, that's terrible. That's why I spend the extra time, the extra money. Sorry, I'm being a little distracted here. I just noticed that I need to plug my computer in, and we're going to run out of power. There we go. And that's why I put that in the shake. I figure that if you paid money for that protein and that fiber and those vitamins and those minerals, you darn well better get your money's worth. I want you to digest all of it. So that's why we do it. That's what makes us unique. Let's go on to one of the other issues. I got a cheat sheet right here. It'll be on the website in a matter of days. Okay, sticking to the plan. You can follow the plan a little bit and you'll still see results. You follow the plan precisely and you'll see fantastic results, and you'll see them quickly. That's the benefit and the magic of our body and how it relates to your body. And so remember now, there's 4 phases of the protocol. They're there for a designed purpose. Go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 4 is the lifestyle phase. Don't skip 2 and 3. In fact, 3 is the most important one. That's the one that how should I say, it cements the benefits you got in phase 1 and phase 2 so that you don't yo-yo back. See, your pancreas and your liver are also glands, and they have memory. And so if you go back to eating higher ratios of carbohydrates, I never want you to go back to eating as many as you were, because you're eating too many in the first place. The average American that's I told you is eating 60 to 65% of their calories from carbohydrates. Well, that translates to about 425 grams of carbs a day. That is way too many. In phase 4, I only want you to have about 120, 115. In fact, you'll feel better at that level after you've been through the program. You go back to 400 and you won't feel good at all. I promise you that. That's your body telling you, go and do phase 4. Don't eat those many grams anymore of carbs. We weren't designed to have that many. Doesn't mean they're bad. We're just not supposed to have that many. Okay? And so stick to the plan. Follow the plan that we give you. It's there for a reason. It's backed up by clinical science. And we have these lessons are all be on the website. I'm just polishing up on the finishing touches for them. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist here because, well, you deserve it. I want you to understand what the diet's about. I want you to understand that my secret mission, my secret plan is I got to fix your pancreas, your liver, and your digestion. I got to get your pancreas back to where it has that 10-to-1 ratio, 1 part insulin to 10 parts glucose, back to normal. I got to get your cells to stop being resistant and ignoring insulin. I want it to be sensitive to it. It takes a little bit of time. If you're the worst pancreas out there and your cells are the worst insulin resistance, studies show and our program show that you can overcome that in as little as 18 weeks. That's not very long. You can be naughty, having 65% of your calories come from carbohydrates for 40 years, and it can be undone and corrected in 18 weeks. That's a miracle. That's amazing. A little bit of a miracle of our product, but mostly a miracle of your body and the way it was created. It just responds so well when it's given the right components. So follow the plan. It's by design, and it's by that macro balancing. Now that macro balancing means that we just got to lower the amount of carbohydrates that you're getting and increase the amount of fats. You know, fat's been given a bad rap for years and years. Even our government has supported the idea that we got to cut fats out of our diet. Now, it's true that not all fats are created equal. Not all fats are healthy. Some are naughty. And just like carbohydrates and protein and insulin and glucagon, there has to be that right ratio. There has to be the right ratio of the types of fats that we're giving or that we're receiving and giving to our body. So in our protocol to start you out with, I'm giving you 2.5 times more omega-3 than you're getting omega-6. So I'm not saying that omega-6, like coconut oil, that's a very popular oil that a lot of people talk about. You may be taking some of it because you read an article that said that coconut oil is great and healthy and that's the new cure. Are they right? Well, yeah, it is healthy. But it's not the right question. I don't want you to ask that question anymore. Is it healthy? Ask a better question. And that would be, does this food deliver to me the results that my current goal is in need of? Meaning, is it a functional food? Does that food function and give me the results that I need right now? You see, asking whether it's healthy is the wrong question. Watermelon's healthy, but if you eat nothing but watermelon all day, that's not going to be very healthy long term, is it? Or even short term for that matter. So I'm giving you higher amounts of omega-3 in the beginning because you get too many omega-6s as it is, by about 23 times too much omega-6. And coconut oil is mostly omega-6. Okay? So, and by the way, I have some omega or coconut oil in the oil that I'm giving you. And when I give you that ratio, there's something special that happens in your body. You see, it flips on a gene in your body that tells your body to start burning your stored fat instead of storing it. And without it, it's really hard to do. And that's why it's essential. So any of you that's just taking the shakes with all those 150 plus ingredients in it, and as good as they are, there's not any healthy fats in the powder. There's only like 1.5 grams. You need more than that. And that's why you got to be taking the oil. The oil is magic. Those two together, oh my goodness, miracles happen. And so do that. Take that oil and don't be shy with it. Okay, follow the protocol. I'm up to, depending on my workout load, I'm up to 10 to 12 pumps per shake, and I'm having that 2-3 shakes a day. The right kind of oils do not make you fat. They keep you slim. Studies show that you'll lose more body fat by taking the appropriate amount of omega fats than not taking them at all or taking too little. Okay? Sweeteners. I want to talk about our sweetener. You know, a lot of companies have some good products out there, but they spoil their formula because of the type of sweeteners that they put in. Let me give you an example. Acesulfame potassium. Sometimes on the label, you'll see it as ACE K. That's ACE and then the letter K. And it's a no-cal artificial sweetener, and it tastes good. But what studies have shown is that once that's in your bloodstream instead of glucose, your pancreas looks at that molecule and says, I think that's glucose. It fools the pancreas into thinking that it's glucose when it's not. And so what it does is it secretes insulin. Now, do you know how bad it is for your body to get insulin in the bloodstream when there's no glucose there? Talk about most of us, or most of the people that aren't on our program, are insulin resistant already at a certain level. Now we're giving them more insulin with no glucose to be able to modulate and keep that insulin level at appropriate levels, and you're just giving it pure insulin into the bloodstream. That'll make your cells even more insulin resistant. That's terrible. So you can actually make yourself at higher risk of being type 2 diabetic and obese because of the sweetener that you're taking. So start reading those labels and look in the ingredients. And I'm not going to say that the other sweeteners are healthy. There's a lot of nasty ones out there that are chemicals, but acesulfame potassium ACE-K is one of the worst. Don't take it. Just say no. Take our sweetener. Ours has an oleosaccharide, which is a great prebiotic. It's great for your gut. It actually has clinically been proven to not promote tooth decay, along with our D-tagatose sweetener. That's kind of the magic portion of our sweetener. It's the one that tastes the most like sugar, has no glycemic value. In fact, it's been clinically proven to, as a treatment solution, given a type 1 diabetic, D-tagatose as a treatment, as a solution. They've gone through stage 3 clinical studies to treat the sweetener as a drug. A couple companies have dumped it off because they couldn't synthesize it, because they don't want to actually give you a natural sweetener. They want something they can make, patent it, and then charge you an arm and a leg for it. So we have the raw form of it. And where does it come from? Well, it comes from fruits, and it comes from whey. And we use that, and then we use just a hint of stevia, pharmaceutical grade stevia, and it's a fantastic sweetener. Use it in your baked goods. We put it in our sweetener. In our shake, CRM or CMR, the complete meal replacement product, and that's what we use. I don't know anybody that has one that's as powerful and effective as ours is. And let me take a look and see what's else on my cheat sheet here. One of the biggest, vitamins and minerals. Now, a study was done about 25 years ago. It was one of the biggest studies of its kind. It involved 20,000 people, lasted almost 20 years. It was conducted by the government. They wanted to see, out of the population, this 20,000, how many people were getting 100% of their daily recommended source of vitamins and minerals from the foods that they ate. So none of the people in the study could take any supplements of vitamins and minerals for 20 years. Wow, I would not be in that study. I would refuse. And then they'd take blood tests and tissue samples, and then they would test and see how many of those people actually were getting 100% of their RDA. You know what the study came out to show? What the percentage of people that got 100%? None. Not one of those 20,000. Okay, what does that mean? That means that we've been lied to, that there are no such thing as vitamins and minerals? Well, we know that's not true. Have we been lied to that there are no vitamins and minerals in the foods that we're eating? That's not true either. But what we have learned is that the foods that we're eating today is not the same as yesterday. In fact, they did another study and showed that a carrot nutrient back in 1935 had more nutrients in it than the carrots that we get today in the grocery store. By how much? You would have to eat 35 carrots of today to match the nutrient content of our carrots from 1935. Our soils are just depleted of those nutrients. And if they're not in the soil, they're not in our food. So it is absolutely essential that you take supplements, or you're not going to get your recommended amounts of vitamins and minerals. So that's easy enough to go down to the grocery store and buy them, right? They're not that expensive. I wanted to go the extra mile. I don't want you to have the vitamins in the grocery store. Not because I want you to buy them from me so I can buy, a new shirt. I want you to get the best kind because the kind that you buy in the grocery store are man-made. And you argue with me and say, no, Jason, I read the label and it said natural. Therefore, it's not man-made. Well, did you know that legally, and I know this because I've read the book, I'm a manufacturer, they tell me what I can say and what I can't say on the label. I can say that it's natural and only have 5% by volume a natural ingredient in it, and the rest of it can be artificial. I can also say that it's natural if it came from the earth. In other words, I could make a vitamin C molecule from petroleum waste, okay, from tar. Well, it came from the earth and it's natural, and then I'm qualifying for the regulation. So 90+% of the vitamins and minerals that you're taking right now, unless you're taking ours, are coming from man-made products out of the earth, primarily oil and chemicals. I'm going to do a video that gives you examples of the actual process. Some of them use cyanide. Yeah. Some of them use formaldehyde, the same thing that they pump through a corpse when we go to a wake and we see our beloved loved ones that have passed on to the other side. Well, I don't want that's not a vitamin. And our body knows the difference. In fact, our body only absorbs about 3% of that, whatever we're taking, because it sees the rest as a toxin. So I figured, you know what, since we're trying to really go for health, let's just go all out. Let's put in there 100% from natural food source vitamins and minerals. And that's what ours are. And that's one of the primary reasons why you feel the difference so fast, is because your body says, hallelujah, finally I'm able to get my vitamin A's and B's and C's and D's and E's and all my minerals that I can absorb. You're absorbing, 98%, but in some cases you're absorbing up to 2,700% higher ratio. And I'll talk about that at another time. That shows that by clinical proof. I got that. Clinically proven in the lab. Wonderful stuff. And I give it to you. It's all in your shake. So you don't have to take extra vitamins and minerals unless you're extra deficient. Now, I'm going to tell you a little secret. Probably shouldn't say this. Oh, I'm already committed. That the same vitamins and minerals that I put in your CMR, your meal replacement shake, I'm going to start providing in capsule form so you can take supplement extra. Because the truth is, sometimes I take extra. If I'm coming down with a cold, generally during the winter time, I take extra anyway, because we just need an extra boost. And so that will be available for you in the pure form, and you'll have that as well. Not to replace this your meal replacement shake, because the capsules will only have vitamins and minerals in it. So that's some good news that because you're here, you got to hear that. So that's one thing that makes it unique and special. I hope that this helps separate us from the many, many products that you could be buying. We are going through a terrible time in our country, in our world, of the level of health. In fact, I had a conversation with a family member, married into the family. He's a little older than I am by about 25 years. And he said, I decided about 20 years ago just to give up on trying to eat healthy. And I said, why? He says, well, because you know what? I'm already old enough. If I start eating healthy now, it's not gonna make me live longer. I'm already down the path that I'm at. And he's about 60 pounds overweight. And he suffers. He takes medication, many of them. His knees are sore, and he doesn't sleep real well, and he has, not the best digestion. And that was interesting to me, because what sometimes we forget about, though he's not necessarily lying, right, is that if he started taking our stuff right now, will he live 10 years longer? And it's hard to say, but probably not, because he's at the tail end of his life. But let me tell you something that is going to make a difference, and that is the quality of life. Back in the day when I was first married, I was a life insurance salesman. It's before I became a financial advisor. And my mentor taught me something that was really important. He says, when you're buying insurance, the thing that's worse than dying is becoming injured so bad that you wish you were dead. You don't have your whole health back, or you don't have your whole mobility back, but you don't get your death benefit if all you're buying is life insurance, because you're still alive, but you do not have the quality of life. You can't do the things that you used to do. And that's what went through my mind when he said, I'll just eat whatever I want to eat. But he's suffering because of those choices. And he's not living the quality of life that he could be living. Because it's not that I want to be here for a long time in misery and in poor health. I want to be here a long time and at the pinnacle of health. I want to be able to do everything I want to do, and up until the day I die. Your body was designed to do that very thing, not lay in bed and not be sickly. And so let that be a lesson. Pass it on to your loved ones. It's the quality of life that you're trying to provide to people, not as much as the longevity of it, though that is likely to happen, but it's depending on how early you start, right? So improve the quality of your life, stay on it like Audrey has, and so hundreds of others of you have. Improve the quality, and let's have you be around for a little bit longer. So thank you very much for being here. I hope this was enjoyable and informative. I'm going to turn it on for 3 questions. Merv, can you hear me out there?
I can hear you. Good call.
You didn't fall asleep on me?
No, you can't fall asleep on that kind of call. Well, that was powerful. Right. Super.
Well,
super call.
Let's send out the message. Anybody out there have a question?
Anybody have a question? We had some calls. Can you hear me, Jason?
I can.
We've had some calls on heart disease. You want to make any comments on coronary heart disease?
Okay, sure. Let's talk about coronary heart disease. Now, there's 2 forms or 2 conditions that we probably ought to get straight. There's coronary heart disease, and then there's coronary artery disease. And now, what's the difference? Well, essentially, they're the same thing. Coronary artery disease is more widely known as arteriosclerosis. What that means is that there's plaque buildup on your arteries, sufficient enough to slow your bloodstream, your blood flow, and tissue can die. Your heart tissue can die because it's not getting enough blood. It depends on what side of the heart the buildup of plaque is. And so they'll call that arteriosclerosis. Well, coronary heart disease is the same thing, but that buildup of plaque is inside the heart. Maybe it's around the valves of the heart. So it's the same thing, caused by the same thing, unless it is congenital, which means that you got it at birth. You're born with it. So let's just get one thing straight. If you have that, how well will our protocol cure you of it? Well, the truth is that our protocol, our program, 3Believe, will not cure you of anything. Don't tell people that. Don't tell yourself that. Well, one thing, it'll cure you of hunger for a few hours, but you're going to get hungry again. Okay. So what it can do, though, is that if you have congenital, it can help you so that you don't get arteriosclerosis on top of your birth defect. All right. So what then causes the plaque buildup in our arteries. Why do we have it? We didn't used to have it years and decades ago, so why are we having it all the time? Matter of fact, this testimony that Audrey wrote, she said she had 2 stents in her vascular system 5 years ago. Now, what is a stent? Why did they have a stent? Because she had arteriosclerosis. She had to build up the plaque somewhere that was causing a risk factor. It was slowing down her blood flow. And the doctor determined that that's not good. Let's open that thing back up. So they put a stent in it, just a little wire mesh, kind of a tube, and they put it in there and they open it up and they pull their tube back out. It just forces the artery where the plaque is to open up more. Doesn't cure anything. It's a talk about a Band-Aid. That's definitely it. So what Audrey's doing now is she's working on stopping what caused that plaque buildup to occur in the first place. So what causes it? Well, we know that it's not genes. It's not just, you're not given the fate without you being able to do anything about it. Every cell in your body has the ability to make a cholesterol molecule. Your eyeball cells, your heart cells, your liver cells, every one of them has the ability to make one, but most don't. Most of your cholesterol that your body makes is your skin and your liver, most of the time, okay? Now, you might be thinking, oh, wait a minute, my doctor told me my cholesterol was too high, so he told me to stop eating red meat and cut down on my eggs. Well, the cholesterol that's floating around in your bloodstream right now, only about 5 to 10% of it maximum comes from the food that you ate. So those eggs and red meat that you ate, 5 to 10% impact. You're not going to lose very much, or your blood pressure, your cholesterol levels are not going to go down very much if you sacrifice eating those things. Because that's not where most of the cholesterol comes from. It comes from your body. So what is telling your cells to make more cholesterol than it should? Well, insulin is. Insulin is the primary switch that tells your cells to make more cholesterol even though it doesn't need more of it. See, every time your body makes a cell, your body's making cells every second of every day, okay? It uses cholesterol as the building blocks of that cell. It's kind of like the 2x4s of the house that you live in. That's the 2x4s of the cell that gives it structure and holds it together. Well, if you're taking too much insulin or producing too much insulin caused by eating too many carbohydrates, right? See how this all flows together? Then you're going to have more cholesterol than your body knows what to do with. Well, it's got to put it somewhere, and it's floating around your bloodstream, and it gets stuck in those arteries, and it starts building up and filling in that little hole, that little pathway in your artery and closing it off. And it causes problems. And so if you reverse the process and you increase the healthy kind of fats, which is why I'm giving you what I'm giving you, and the omega fats, the HDL in your bloodstream has the ability to reduce the amount of arteriosclerosis or plaque buildup in your body. Another thing that helps, I'm letting it out of the bag again, another product that you'll be able to provide is two scientists received the Nobel Prize of Medicine when they discovered this, that a certain formula of amino acids can actually reduce the amount of plaque buildup in your bloodstream, and we'll have that for you in a supplement form that you can take for any of you that have that risk. That would be something great for Audrey as an example. So we'll have that as well. So that's the story on heart disease. So is our program great for it? Absolutely, because it reduces what makes your body in creating extra cholesterol, which is the source of heart disease. So hopefully I answered some questions. Is there another one out there? I hear a barking dog.
Any questions, anyone? Go ahead.
Well,
Anybody?
I don't care. I don't have any other questions. I've answered, or I've posted a lot of them. So I will, since we're right at the top of the hour, how about we just close it? And this will be recorded, and you can send your friends. You can refer to it at your leisure. And everybody have a great, great day. And tomorrow, make it a better one. Thank you again.
Good call. Good call.
Great call. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Mervyn.
Thank
This is
you all.
Thank
Patricia
you.
from California.
God bless you. God bless everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you
Okay.
for being on.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Good night,
Bye.
everybody. Good night.